Much, choir ladies. That is such a very wonderful, inspiring song. It reminds me that God's timing is really perfect. It's never late, it's never early, it's just the right time. And you cannot improve something that is perfect. So if you really want something in your life, it should be God's perfect timing. So thank you so much, ladies, for that wonderful song. And I hope that you also appreciated that wonderful hymn. So brethren, happy Sabbath to all of you. Shalom. Thank you that you have been here in the Sabbath home, those who are listening to this message and those who are outside. It's such a great blessing to be here to celebrate God's Sabbath. And I hope that you are ready to listen to the the main message this afternoon. Now to start this message, brethren, I would like to show to you an image, a very familiar image. I'm sure that you have seen one of these in person. Actually, this is a mouse trap. Right? This is a mouse trap. It's been a while since I've seen one of these. But when I was a child, I tried and I've seen one. And as you know that it is one of those, I would say, primitive, they would say that, a mouse trap. Now, if you look into that picture, you would see the different parts of the mouse trap. You have the latch, the helical spring, the trigger, the swinging striker or the hammer, and of course, the wooden base. Alright, so that is basically the trap. And in this photo, I would like to ask you, for this trap to be effective, what do you think is the missing piece in this trap? The cheese. Yes, very good. It is the bait, of course. It is the bait. So, usually, we know that we use the cheese. Actually, when I was a child, I tried to use that cheese, but it's not that really effective. So, I used the beef, yung galing sa bulalo, and it's just very effective. I caught a rodent with that beef. So, maybe some mouse likes it better when it is the bulalo or the beef. So, for a mouse trap to be very effective, it needs a bait, all right? And it should not just be any other bait, okay? The bait should be attractive to the mouse. You should not be thinking na, ano ba yung gusto ko? Dapat yun din ang gusto ng mouse. If I like ice cream, yan yung lalagay ko sa mouse trap. Do you think that would attract the mouse? Or maybe you are attracted to money. You are attracted to money. 1,000 bill. Ito, sure ako kasi gustong-gusto ko tong 1,000 bill. So, I will use this as a bait sa mouse. Do you think it would be effective? Of course not. You need to use a bait that is attractive to the mouse. Alright? The same way, in the same way when you're trying to fish. Diba? Usually, you use a worm as a bait. You don't use money as a bait. You will not catch any worm. You will not catch any fish with that. You need to use something that is attractive to the fish. So, a mouse trap is designed to catch rodents or to catch mouse, anything that it wants to catch, or any type of trap. It is designed to trap. And when it comes to a mouse trap, if in the first strike, you are not killed, you would suffer a very painful and slow death. Maybe you have seen a rodent been trapped for how many weeks or how many days on that mouse trap. It's really going to be a painful death. Now, a trap is designed to catch, to lure, and to kill rodents. And why am I telling you about this, brethren? Because our enemy, Satan the devil, has also set a trap in our life. And this kind of trap is something that is very difficult to identify. Aside from the bait, okay, for a trap to be effective, it needs to be hidden. And it should be not obvious. Kasi kung nandiyan yung trap, trap yan, very easy to identify. I will not go there because it's a trap. But if you want your bait, if you want your trap to be effective, it needs to be hidden or it should not be an obvious trap. Alright? And Satan knows perfectly this thing. That's why he laid something in even in just in front of us, and we're not even aware that it is a trap. Now, if you go back to the picture that I showed you, there's one particular part of that trap that I want us to focus on. Yan. I want you to look at the trigger or trip. Okay? That is where you put the bait or the cheese, kung baga. That is where you put the bait. And when you look into the Greek word of this trigger, it is actually the Greek word skandalon. S-K-A-N-D-A-L-O-N. Skandalon. And that is actually where we got the word scandal. Skandalon. Skandalon refers to the moving part of a trap that when it is triggered, it will cause a chain reaction that will trigger the mousetrap. So without the trigger, it would be useless. So Satan knows perfectly this thing, and you know what? In the Bible, scandalon is a very interesting word. And I want to give you a verse here, and I want to see if you can identify the Greek word scandalon here. Let's go to Matthew 18 verse 7. Matthew 18 verse 7. I hope that you're already there. Matthew 18 verse 7 says, "Woe to the world because of offenses! For offenses must come, but woe to that man by whom the offense comes." Can you guess which word in that verse came from the word scandalon? Yes, it's the word offense. Offenses. And you know what, brethren? Offenses, according to the Bible, is actually a trap. It is actually a trap. It is hidden. It is not something obvious. And it is something that is designed to catch, to lure, and to kill you. And a lot of us, brethren, have underestimated the power of offenses. We have thought that, that is just a small sin. That is something that it is not really serious. It is something that I can just brush off. It is something that will not hurt me. And that is exactly what Satan wants us to think about offenses. But in this afternoon, brethren, I want to invite you to look into this topic. Because if you're not careful, brethren, offenses can become a serious problem. And it will lead you to a spiritual death. And that is what I want us to look into this sermon today. So, I hope that you are ready to deep dive into these offenses. Because, just like what Yeshua said, woe to the world because of offenses. For offenses must come. It is something that is not optional. It is something that would surely come. We live in this fallen world and it will really come. How many of you have not been offended? Sino sa inyo mga hindi pa na-offend? Sino pa sa inyo ang hindi pa naka-experience of being offended? I would say that all of us, I would venture to say that all of us has been offended at least once in our lives. I've been offended multiple times. And it is actually, based on my experience, it is a trap. That if we are not going to deal with it, it could lead to our spiritual demise. So, let's start our study of this topic, brethren. The first question I want to ask is this: why are offenses deadly? Why is it so deadly? What about offenses that it makes it very devious? It's going to really destroy you. What is it in offenses that would really destroy us? Now, going back to the Greek word skandalon, it refers to a stumbling block or a trap. And this word skandalon refers to, usually it is used to refer to someone who causes other people to stumble or to become offended, or someone who would cause others to sin. So, here's why offense is so dangerous. Number one, it can lead to bitterness and unforgiveness. And can lead to bitterness and unforgiveness. When we allow an offense to fester, it often grows into bitterness. Let's go to Hebrews 12, brethren. Hebrews 12 gives us a warning about bitterness. I'll just read here. It says, looking carefully, lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness spring up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. That's Hebrews 12 verse 15. Now you could see, brethren, that when you are offended, you can easily become bitter. And you know what it means to become bitter, brethren? Becoming bitter is you become negative and resentful toward that person. If you are asking yourself, why do I feel like this to this person? Parang ayoko talaga sa kanya. There's something about that person that I don't like. Perhaps you have been offended by that person. That is bitterness. And the negative thing about bitterness, it acts like a poison. When you are bitter towards a person, no matter what that person do, no matter what that person he did something that is good, you would always find a fault to that person. Have you experienced that? If you have been offended by that person, and when you are already bitter to that person, oh, may ginawa siya mabuti dito. Ay, ginawa niya lang yan kasi nagpapakitang gilas lang yan. Oh, tingnan mo, tinulungan niya yung tao. Ay, alam mo, nagpapasip-sip lang yan. That is what we think about, that is how bitterness can poison us. I remember this news about this particular village in Africa. All of a sudden, the people were getting sick. They were getting sick, and so they investigate what could be the reason that they're getting sick. So they identified that it is because of the water. The water has been infected by certain bacteria. And so they investigate why is it because it has infected, and so they look at and then finally they went to the source of the water. And then they saw there was a dead pig in the source of the water. Bitterness is like that, brethren. It will take root in your life, and it will poison a lot of the different parts of aspects of your life. And I'm sure that you have already experienced bitterness in your life. So that is the reason, brethren, that offense is very, very dangerous, because it could lead to bitterness, and it could also lead to unforgiveness. It would be difficult for you to forgive other people. And number two, why is it deadly, brethren? Because it can cause division. It can cause division. When we become offended and allow it to go unaddressed, it can separate us from other people. You see, brethren, I know you have also experienced this when you get offended by other person. What do? You try to distance yourself. And sometimes if you are offended by the church, maybe you are offended by the church leader, you are offended by someone who is a church member, what do? You stop attending. Ayoko na dyan kasi nakaka-offend. Ayoko dyan sa pastor nila, ayoko dyan sa elders nila, ayoko dyan sa mga church leaders nila. Hypocrites yan. Wala yung mga ginagawa mabuti. When you were offended, what will happen? You become, you cause division. And you know what, brethren? When you are offended, the spiritual wolves or lions loves to approach a weak individual, someone who is already wounded by offenses. And these individuals, these lions or these wolves, will say things that the offended person would like to hear instead of what this person needs to hear. Yesterday we watched this movie. Maybe you have seen the trailer. It is Mufasa, and in that movie, it was shown how lions attack a lone prey. Antelope ba yun? Oh, yeah, I think it's antelope ba tawag dun? Basta, yung animal na yun, they try to attack a lone Alone pray. Weak pray. And the same manner, brethren, when you are offended and you try to distance yourself from the church, you will be at the crosshair of Satan. It would be easier for Satan to attack you because you are separated from the herd. In the same manner, brethren, when you are offended and you stop attending church because you were hurt, you don't like what ayaw mo nung message kahapon, ayaw mo nung narinig mo, you could also learn and what's so fatal about this, brethren, because you can also infect other church members or infect other people and make them try to side with you, and that will cause further division in the church. So that is one of the reasons, brethren, that offenses can be very deadly. And what else? This is very important, brethren. This is something that I have read this verse a lot of times, but when I studied the topic of offense, I saw this verse in a different way. Let's go to Matthew 24, verse 10. Remember, brethren, Matthew 24 is a chapter about end times events. And some portion of this is kind of shocking, at least to me. Matthew 24, verse 10. It says here, saan na ba yun? Yan. So part of the signs of the times, because the disciples ask in verse 3, tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And part of the answer of Yeshua, notice here in verse 10, and then many will be offended. Many will be offended. Many people would be hurt. And you know what will happen, brethren, when you are offended? What is the next step? When you are offended, it would be easier for you to will betray one another. And then what will happen next? And will hate one another. So, you could see here, brethren, that being offended could lead to betrayal. Have you ever experienced that, brethren? That you have a close friend that you have offended? And what that friend does is that friend would try to betray you. Like, ayoko na sa'yo. Doon ako sa bagong circle of friends ko. Uy, alam mo ba, ito siya, maraming bahong tinatago yan. This person is like this, like that. It's betrayal. And why? Because that person was offended. Again, going back to the movie Mufasa, si Taka, that was, I don't want to spoil you, but Taka was actually, ano ba, sabihin ko ba? Sige, sabihin ko na lang. Sige, hindi ko na sabihin. Si Taka doon was, she fell in love with the female lion, si Sarabi. He fell in love with Sarabi. But Sarabi fell in love with Mufasa. And because he was offended but by what happened, what did he do? He betrayed Mufasa in that movie. And that led to the enemies of Mufasa to find them. Yes, no spoiler. Okay? So that happened. So he was betrayed. And because of that, actually this verse is actually true. Even in movies, it would lead to betrayals. Do you know the popular disciple of Yeshua that betrayed him? We thought that it's just Judas, diba? But actually, Peter also betrayed him. In the Bible, there's a verse there that says, everyone will be, sabi ni Peter, everyone will be offended, but I will never be offended. I will die for you. Sabi ni Peter. But when the time comes, when Yeshua was about to get tortured, he got offended. And what did he do? He betrayed Yeshua. He said, I never knew this man. Nagmura pa siya. I don't know this man. So this tells you that it is really dangerous to get offended. If you have betrayed anyone, I hope you have not done it. But if you have betrayed anyone, you should ask yourself, have I been offended? The answer could be yes. That's why you are betraying someone because of offense. And number 4, very important. Offenses can lead to sin. It can lead to sin. When we harbor offenses in our lives, it can lead to sin. Unresolved offense often leads to sinful behavior. Let's go to Ephesians 4:26 to 27. Ephesians 4:26, 27. Look at this. In your anger, do not sin. In your anger, do not sin. Now, what is the common response of an offended person? He becomes angry. He becomes hateful. And because of that, brethren, if you let that hate stays in you, if you let that offense stays in you, it says, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry or you are still offended, and do not give the devil a foothold. You see that, brethren? The devil, Satan, can use offenses as a foothold in your life. Can you see that, brethren? When we hold into offenses, we open the door for the enemy to work in our lives. And that is why it is very dangerous to have offenses. And it would lead, the devil could use that offense, amplify it, would make it grow and grow until it leads to sin. Ganyan ka-dangerous ang offenses. And number 5, why are offenses dangerous? Because it can prevent reconciliation. It can prevent reconciliation. Because when you are offended, sabihin na natin, you are unjustly offended. Sabihin natin, totoo, nasaktan ka. And when you are, I'm hurt, you give yourself a justification of being offended. Kasi nasaktan ako eh. Ang sakit-sakit ng ginawa niya sa akin. I'm offended. This feeling of hatred is justified. Ganun. And when that happens, brethren, we are giving ourselves an excuse to hate other people. You see, brethren, offenses should not be an excuse to hate your brother. And because of being offended, brethren, you can be prevented from true reconciliation. And finally, brethren, I just want to add this point. Why offenses are very dangerous. Because it could lead you to abandon your faith. It could lead you to abandon your faith. Look at this, Matthew 13, verse 21. Let me read here. Matthew 13, verse 21. This is actually the explanation of the parable of the soil. Matthew 13 to 21. Parable of the soils or parable of the sower. 13:21. Let's start with verse 20. But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Tuwang-tuwa siya that he heard about this, the gospel. 21. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he was offended. If you look into the NKJV, it says, he stumbles. So you could see here, brethren, that when you are offended, that can cause you to abandon your faith. And I hope that you are now seeing why Satan has laid this kind of trap, because it is insidious. Sa una, kala mo, wala lang yung offense. So easy to deal with. And then you will try to deny it. And then, when it grows, and grows, it could lead to negative effects in your life. And hopefully, it would not come to that point where you will abandon your faith because of offenses. Alright? So, those are the reasons why why offenses are very dangerous. But, when you think about offenses, brethren, you might think about hurt feelings because you are betrayed, because someone has done something against you. But did you know, brethren, that we can also be offended by God? Yes, we think that offense, ano lang yan? It could be from individuals, from people to people, but it could also be because of the truth. So, people can also be offended by God. Look at this, brethren. Look what happened to Yeshua when he was still on earth. In Matthew 15 verse 21, Matthew 15, 12. Let's read there, brethren. Malapit na tayo dito. So let's just read here. Matthew 15 verse 12. It says here, Then his disciples came and said to him, Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? Did you see that, brethren? It doesn't mean that when you have offended other people, it doesn't automatically mean that you have already sinned. Why? Because Yeshua did not sin, and yet he has offended other people. You see that, brethren? Do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? Now, Yeshua taught the truth. He did not offend other people for the sake of offending, but he was there teaching the truth, and the truth hurt these people, the Pharisees. And because of this, brethren, there are instances when offense are actually a sign of pride and hardness of heart. You have to think about that, brethren. When you have been offended, you have to see, am I offended because of the truth? Am I offended because of the hardness of my heart? Could it be that the wrong here is not the one who offended, but it is actually you who was offended? So there's also a chance that you are also offended by the truth. And let's go here, brethren, that this is not the only place where Yeshua has offended people. In Mark 6:2 verse 3, Mark 6:2-3, when the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, Where did this man get these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that such mighty works are performed by his hands? Look at this, brethren, in the latter part. Basahin ko lang lahat. Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? So they were offended at him. They were offended by Yeshua once again. Why? Because they cannot accept the fact that this guy is nobody. Yeshua is, nakita namin yan, bata pa lang yan, na naglalaro. We know this teacher. How could this teacher have so much wisdom na wala man lang educational background yan? We are offended. So, di ba, sometimes, recently, I'm not immune to this kind of things because I'm also I'm writing online, and I got an email recently, and she was reacting on a article that I wrote that harsh truths your pastor never told you about being born again. That's the article. And so this lady sent me a message. She said that you are a cult. You are teaching that is contrary to Yahweh. Who are you? Sabi niya sa akin, that's the exact words. Who are you? You don't have educational background. You don't come from seminaries. You don't come from theological schools. Who are you to teach these things? Sabi niya sa akin. I believe you are a cult, sabi niya. And that's exactly what happened to Yeshua as well. Some people think that he is teaching a heresy because he is teaching the truth, and people were offended because of that. So you could see, brethren, that it is possible that you could be offended, and the fault is not in the offender, but it is you. And here, brethren, John 6 in John 6, let's go there, brethren. I will just summarize this because it's kind of long. John 6 verse 60-67. Therefore, many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, This is a hard saying. Who can understand it? When Yeshua knew in himself that his disciples complained about this, so the people, his disciples mismo, this is not just outsider, this is his own disciples. He said to them, Does this offend you? So, a lot of these people cannot grasp the teachings of Yeshua, and they were offended. Actually, when you read the chapter here, Yeshua was teaching that he is the bread of life. So these people, these disciples could not accept his hard teaching. So they were offended. Does this offend you? From that time, many of the disciples went back and walked away, walked with him no more. Then Yeshua said to the 12, do you also want to go away? So you could see, brethren, that offense is actually a huge problem even in the ministry of Yeshua. That when people get offended, they are offended by the truth, by the teachings of Yeshua. And so, because of the hardness of their heart, they were not able to accept the truth. So you can see here, brethren, that in the same way, brethren, when you get offended by God, His truth, His correction, and His way of life, His offenses reveal hearts that resist correction and repentance. That's why, brethren, when you're offended by the truth, you can either become bitter or better. You can either turn away from sin or turn away from God. You can either be filled with pride or humility. The choice is yours, brethren. So, that is just a biblical background of the other side of offenses. And now, I want to focus more on offenses between brothers and sisters, among ourselves. Okay? So, what should you do when the offender is you? Kasi maraming scenario to eh. I tried to take a look at this topic, and there are scenarios that it is you who offended, it is you who have offended others, or it could be that you are the offender, or you are offended by the truth. So, there's different scenarios here. So, let me just go one by one and give you some tips or some biblical principles that you could use when you are in this situation. Alright? You might not be in this situation right now, but I'm sure these teachings could be useful in the future. Okay, so take note of this. What should you do when the offender is you? Now, when you become the offender, there's two things that could happen. It could be that you have said the truth, or it could be that you are actually in the wrong. You're actually at fault. So let's go to the first scenario. What to do when you offend others with the truth? What to do when you offend others with the truth? Number one is this. You need to examine your motive. Okay? You need to examine your motive. Because sometimes you can be actually saying the truth, but you are actually saying it with the wrong motive. Okay? Remember that God's word is like a light. Diba? When you use a flashlight, it's very useful to light up your path. But if you flash it in the face of other people, diba? Gidiretso mo sa muka, it will hurt them. So, there are times when, ang sabi sa Bible, you need to speak the truth in love. Okay? So, you need to examine your motive. Kasi, you might be saying the truth, but actually, you are trying to discredit or try to insult ba, or you try to tear down a person. For example, you are saying the truth, and then you told that person the truth, and then there's a lot of people hearing it because you want to damage that person's reputation. That could be the wrong motive. Yes, you said the truth, but it is the wrong way of saying it. So you need to say the truth in love. Alright? So you need to examine your motive if it is pure, or it could be because you want to tear down other people. And I hope that when you tell the truth, it is because you want to share the truth. Okay? So number 2, be willing to apologize for your delivery if necessary. Okay? So there are times when you said the truth to other people, but the way you said it is wrong. The way you said it is kind of offensive to them. So, remember, brethren, even if the truth itself caused the offense, examine perhaps your tone, your timing, or your manner of delivery played a role. Okay? If so, apologize for how you communicated without compromising the truth. Sometimes, iba, For example, you are going to tell someone, okay? You're going to tell someone na, uy, tumataba ka. Di ba, some women are very sensitive to that? Na they kind of, parang offensive naman yun. Sometimes, it's the way you deliver it that makes it very difficult. Sometimes, they said that, ay, you are body shaming me. You are trying to, to put me down because of my weight, because of how I look. But actually, you just want to help that person. It's because it's not healthy to be obese. It's not healthy to be overweight. It could lead to different diseases in the future. So, you are just trying to be honest and to help that person. And because, perhaps it is just because of the way you said it. And because of that, you could actually just apologize on how you deliver it, but you just wanted to be honest with that person. So, being willing to apologize allows you to be humble and to restore that relationship. And of course, you need to also pray for the offended person. Sometimes, nagsorry ka na, or sometimes you try to reconcile and try to restore the relationship, but that the other person doesn't want it. And that's the time you have to trust God's timing. Tulad ng sinabi kanina, God's timing. That if maybe that offended person is not yet ready to reconcile. All right? So, that is let's go to 2 Timothy 2 verses 24 to 26. This is a very good verse to remember when it comes to correcting other people. Okay? 2 Timothy 2 verse 24 to 26. And the servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but be gentle to all, able to teach, patient, and in humility correcting those who are in opposition. In humility. Hindi yung mayabang ka. Yung, ikaw talagang hindi mo alam yung Bible. Wala kang alam. Ito talagang sinasabi about heaven and hell. Mali naman yung inisip mo. That's not how it works, brethren. You need to be correcting in humility. And you need to be patient and, sabi dito, you need to be gentle. Correcting those who are in opposition, if God perhaps will grant them repentance, so that they may know the truth, and that they may come to their senses and escape the snare of the devil. Now that again reminds us of the trap of offenses. And escape the snare of the devil, having been taken captive by him to do his will. So very important, brethren. We need to be gentle and you need to be humble even though you are speaking the truth. You need to always remember to do it in a humble way. And of course, you need to stay committed to the truth. You see, Yeshua, he said the truth and he didn't try to compromise the truth just to avoid people getting offended. He said it like it is. And he knows that he doesn't need to compromise with the truth. In the same manner, brethren, sometimes we kind of hesitate to correct other people. Sometimes we are hesitant to tell the truth about other people. Why? Because we don't want to offend. But because of that, we try to compromise. Tulad no just to give you an example. Christmas, di ba? Some people will try to invite you. Uy, sama ka naman sa Christmas party namin. Hindi pwede kasi hindi kami nagse-celebrate niyan. We believe that's a pagan custom. Ano ka ba? Year-end party na lang tayo. Year-end party, ayan, para inclusive tayo. Hindi naman talaga Christmas party yan eh. It's just an year-end party. Ayan. So, what happens? This actually happened to me when I was in college. Kasi, my classmates really wanted me to come. And I was thinking na, ayoko lagi kay, that's against my biblical belief. And so, they changed it for the sake of, for my sake, they changed it from Christmas party, it became year-end party. Heto naman ako, na-touch, I compromised with the truth. Sabi ko, thank you, ang babait nyo naman. Parang kanta yun thank you. Thank you, ang babait nyo naman. Sige, pupunta ako mamaya. And then, lo and behold, pumunta ako. Totoo nga. Instead na Christmas party nga sa likod, yung nakalagay doon, year-end party. So, I was really impressed. Uy, tignan ko. very importante talaga ako. Talagang binago para sa akin. And then, it comes the program. Nagbago lang yung pangalan ng program, but the same activities, exchanging gift, caroling, mga Christmas games. So, binago lang yung pangalan. So, what happened? Because I don't want to offend them, I compromise with the truth. And that is what I'm telling you, brethren, that we should stand our ground. Stand our ground talagang totoo. This is the truth. I will stand by it. I will die for it. I will really fight for it because this is the truth. Hindi yung magko-compromise tayo. And that is why, brethren, if you are more afraid of offending others than offending God, then you have the wrong priority in your life. So, when you know that it is the truth, you need to fight for it. Don't compromise. Huwag niyo akong gayahin. Okay? So, that should be a, tawag nila doon, cautionary tale. So that you could also learn from my mistake. So, from that time on, kahit sabihin nila na, tawag nito, year-end party, sabi ko, next time na lang, next time. So, di naman sila na-offend, but that actually saved my principles to really stand my ground. So, I hope that you also would learn to stand your ground when it comes to the truth. Right? So, that is what you should do when it comes to when you have offended others when you say the truth. When you say the truth. Alright? But what should you do when you have wrongly offended others? When it is truly your fault, ikaw yung nagkasala, you actually offended others. Now, this is very, very dangerous. It is very dangerous, brethren. Because when you have offended, according to the Bible, when you have offended other people, it means that you have caused them to sin. And Yeshua gave a chilling warning to anyone who has offended other people. To anyone who has caused other people to sin. Let's go here, brethren. Luke 17. I want us to realize the magnitude and seriousness of offending other people. Luke 17. Let's dissect these verses, brethren. 17:1-2. Verse 1. When he said to the disciples, it is impossible that no offenses should come. So it is impossible. So Yeshua said it is hard, it is more likely it will happen, but it is impossible that no offenses should come. But look at this, brethren. But woe to him through whom they do come. What does woe mean? It means great sorrow, great calamity would happen to that person. Woe to him through whom they do come. Oo, mangyayari. This world, there's a lot of opportunities that would cause you to be offended, but it would be more difficult if that offense came to you. Verse 2, sabi to, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea than that he should offend one of these little ones. Can you just imagine the vivid and graphic imagery here, brethren? Sabi dito, it would be better for you if a millstone were hung around your neck than to offend other people, these little ones. What is this millstone, brethren? Millstone is used for grinding. I don't know if you have seen that. It's kind of circular with a little hole in the center. So it's really heavy. So this imagery that says that a millstone is hung around your neck and you're thrown into the sea, this is actually an imagery of death. It is a sure death because it would drag you down at the bottom of the sea and you will drown. So sabi ni Yeshua, mas mabuti pang ganun ang mangyari sa'yo than you would offend the little ones. Grabe, no? Ganyan ka-serious. In other words, Yeshua was saying that it is better for you na mamatay na lang kaysa sa mag-offend. You would cause offend to these little ones. And that is how serious it is to offend other people. Look at this, brethren. Then he should offend one of these little ones. Who are these little ones, brethren? Little ones physically could refer to the young people here in the church. The young people. So, it's not just in that church, but the young people. Alright? But particularly here in the church. If you're going to offend, if you're going to cause the little ones, the young people, the teenagers to sin, then you are gravely in danger of judgment. Kaya nga, and the little ones here, figuratively, could also refer to the brethren who are weak in faith, or those who are just new believers. Bago pa lang, na-offend na agad. So, it is very difficult, or it is very dangerous to offend the little ones. Kaya nga, the ones who are preaching here are held accountable more than you who are hearing this. Because we are in great danger as well. Because what if I'm going to teach you something that will cause you to sin? What if I'm going to teach a false doctrine? What if I'm going to teach something that is not biblical? So it is better for me to be thrown to the sea and drowned than to offend you. That is how serious this problem is, these offenses. Kaya, tawag nito, it is very important for us to really be conscious of every actions, every words that we say. That it should not offend the little ones. And even other brethren, even the other brethren, brothers and sisters. Kasi that would also cause offenses. So, brethren, what should you do when you have wrongly offended others? First is, you need to understand the seriousness of this problem. Okay? And by reading that Luke 17, 1-2, I hope that you have seen how dangerous and serious it is that we should not cause offense to others or cause them to sin. So, the next thing that you should do is acknowledge your wrongdoing. Acknowledge it. Sometimes, because of pride, we don't want to acknowledge. Diba? Kung naka-offend ka ng other people, para yun lang, na-offend siya. Grabe naman, ang weak naman ng person na yan. Ba't ako magsasorry? But the first thing you need to do, if you have offended others, kasi ganito yan, isipin nyo. It's not, hindi dahil, paano ba sabihin yan? It's not because it's easy for you, it is also easy for others. All of us have different level of conversion. Hindi dahil na, madali lang naman i-overcome to, bakit sa kanya hindi? We should always consider other people's level of conversion. Kaya, you need to acknowledge your wrongdoing. In Proverbs 28 verse 13, brethren, Proverbs 28:13 says, "Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy." So, the more you deny, you minimize your wrongdoing, you would eventually not find mercy because you are denying your wrongdoing. And then number 3, confess to God and seek forgiveness. Confess to God and seek forgiveness. Because ultimately, when you offend other people, you caused them to sin, ultimately, the offense you made is against Yahweh. It is actually a sin against Yahweh. That's why we need to ask for forgiveness from God. And then, we need to approach the person who you have offended. This is the very important part, brethren. We need to take initiative to say sorry to the one who we have offended. But sometimes, it's really difficult to say sorry. Diba? Have you experienced that? Parang, ang hirap, or sometimes we might say sorry, but we really didn't mean it. Parang wala lang, sorry. Or, sorry. Diba? Sometimes yung mga bata, you say sorry. Sorry. Parang walang, but it's not really sincere. But if you really want to make it sincere, you have to say it with remorse naman. Saying sorry. And when you apologize, be specific. Hindi yung, sorry. Sorry saan? You need to be specific. Sorry because I have done this, I have mentioned this. When you are very specific, that actually opens up reconciliation. Kasi, nakita niya, you would see that you are being sincere with your apology. And then you need to ask for forgiveness. You don't demand forgiveness, you ask for it. 'Di ba? Hindi yung uy, sorry na kasi. Sabi ko sorry na eh. You are demanding your forgiveness. Hindi ganun. You need to ask for it. Hindi yung pipilitin mo. Sabi sorry na eh. Hindi na, that's not how it works. You really have to be gentle kung you are going to ask for forgiveness. Okay? And most importantly, when you ask for forgiveness, you need to make amends. Amends or, ano pa yung amends, you try to make it up to that person. Hindi yung magsusorry ka, tapos, for example, na-late ka sa trabaho. Uy, sorry na-late ako. You need to take initiative to make amends. What can you do to make up with the lost time? Hindi yung uy, sorry, late ako. Wala kang ginawa. But you have to, uy, sorry, late ako. Ganito, pwede kayo magpahinga na lang kayo. Ako muna dito. So, that way, you are really showing that you are sincere with your apology. Make amends or amendments with your apology. Okay? So, those are the things that we should do when we have offended others. Now, let's go to the next part. What to do when you are offended? Ayan, ito naman. Kanina, you are the offender. You are the one who caused the offense. Now, it is you who has been offended. What should you do when you are offended? If you find yourself offended by others, it's essential to respond in a way that reflects your faith and promotes reconciliation, peace, and spiritual growth. The first thing that you need to do is that you need to remember that being offended is actually a choice. It is a choice. Remember the picture of the mousetrap? All right? Remember the picture of the mousetrap? You have a choice to either get that bait or not. There's a bait and then you have to think whether, should I get this or not? Should I get offended or not? Could this be something worth my time? So, it is actually a choice. Yeah, hindi mo pwede sabihin na, wala akong choice eh. Na-offend ako, talagang wala na akong magagawa. Offend na ako. Wala na ako, alis na ako, ayoko na sa'yo. That's not how it works. You actually have a choice whether you will be offended or not. Alright? So the next one is, reflect on your reaction. Reflect on your reaction. Why am I offended? Tanungin niyo sarili niyo, why am I offended? Is it because my pride was hurt? Is it because of just simple misunderstanding, or is it because this is rooted in sin? So you need to ask yourself and examine whether that offense is worth your time. Look at this here in Proverbs 19 verse 11, brethren. Very wonderful verse about offense. Proverbs 19 verse 11. A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory. Look at this, brethren. I want you to remember this every time you are about to get tempted to be offended. It is one's glory to overlook an offense. You see that, brethren? Someone who chooses to overlook an offense is going to, it is his glory. Now, wag niyo napansinin. It is not worth his time. It is a offense that could easily be forgiven, and you don't need to confront others. So, this is something part of your glory. Alright? So, if you try to overlook an offense, this is actually to your credit. Okay? So, reflect on your reaction. And next is, I want you to seek God in prayer. Alright? This is very important. Sometimes, we kind of think that, offense lang yan, very small matter. I don't need to pray about it. But actually, you should. You should pray about offenses. You know why? Because if you let it stay in your heart, like what I mentioned earlier, it could lead to different problems. Look at this, brethren, in Matthew 5:44. Okay? A very familiar verse, Matthew 5:44. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, or pray for those who has offended you. when you try to pray for that person, brethren, you're actually not just praying for that person, but you are actually praying for yourself. It is for your peace when it comes to praying. Alright, so, number 3, choose forgiveness. Or, another point here, choose forgiveness. Ephesians 4 verse 32, it says, Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. You know what, brethren? There's a common denominator between you, the offended, and the one who is the offender. You know what, brethren? What is that common denominator or common ground? That is that both of you are sinners. Both of you are sinners. Both of you actually needs forgiveness. And if someone comes to you and asks for forgiveness, you have to extend that forgiveness. You know why? Because God has also forgiven you. If you are, sometimes you know why? Why we tend to not forgive others? Because we demand perfection to other people. You are not supposed to do that. I expect you to be better than this. You are supposed to do this and do that. So when you expect perfection from other people, your expectation is unrealistic. And because of that, you kind of, you are actually a person who's also imperfect. Okay? So you are an imperfect person demanding perfection from other people, which is kind of unfair. And look at this, brethren. Remember that you have also been given forgiveness. You might say, you don't deserve forgiveness. But did you know, brethren, you also don't deserve forgiveness? And yet, God has forgiven you. And just like what Ephesians 4:32 says, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. So you need to extend the same mercy and forgiveness that God has given you to the one who has offended you. Alright, so that's one of the points I want to share with you. And number 4, approach the person humbly. Okay? Matthew 18 verse 15. Matthew 18:15 says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Look at this, brethren. Very important detail here. Who is the one who's going to approach the brother? If your brother sins against you. So, the one who is going to approach someone, the one who is hurt, the one who is offended. Alright? So, when you are offended, someone has hurt you, it is your responsibility to actually go to that brother. Sabi dito if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault. He did not say that, go and tell your friends. Wala sinabi niya, di ba? But that is actually our tendency. Di ba? Humahanap tayo ng kakampi. Tapos yung mga friends natin, gatong. You know what gatong is? Yung panggatong ng fireplace. Instead of putting water on the fire, they're actually putting more gatong, more wood. Or sometimes, they pour gasoline. Ayan. Sige, magalit ka pa. Di ba sabi niya, hindi lang yan sinabi niya. Di ba sabi niya nung isang araw, ganyan sila. Tsaka narinig ko pa. Grabing gatong, di ba? So, ganyan yung mga, sometimes, the so-called friends that we have, na instead of telling us, correcting us, nanggagatong pa. So, that's why, Yeshua said, instead of talking about that person, you need to talk to that person. That is the Matthew 18 way. You need to go to your brother who sins against you and go tell him his fault between you and him alone. So that is the correct way. And sometimes, and not sometimes, most of the time when you do this, you actually end up reconciling with each other. I have experienced this. Sometimes we hesitate. Ayoko ng confrontation eh. But actually, the main goal of Matthew 18 is not about arguing. It's about reconciliation with each other. Kaya, don't be afraid to apply this Matthew 18 principle. It is very effective, and imagine if all brethren, all people would apply this. We would see fewer divisions in the church when we apply Matthew 18. So, and finally, brethren, pursue reconciliation. Pursue reconciliation. In Romans 12, verse 17 to 18, this is actually our infographic in our page, Romans 12 verse 17 to 18. It says, repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Do your best. Do your part. Sometimes, we give up easily. Ayoko na yan. I will just look for another friends. Hindi ganun dapat. We need to do our best na to the point na when we finally give up of that relationship, we can look back and say na, ginawa ko ang lahat. I did my best to save the relationship, but wala. Ganun talaga. I just leave it in the hands of God. So, it says here that if it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Now, if other people, the person who offended you, does not want to live peaceably with you, then let God be the judge. Let Him take over. Trust Him that He will heal the relationship, or He would do, His plan would overtake what you want to happen. So, even if the other person doesn't respond well, do your part to seek reconciliation. Alright? So, that is the godly way of dealing with offenses. So, brethren, actually, I still have a section here about how to avoid getting offended. I just want to run down this because I don't have much time, but I want to just quickly run down here. Now, we already knew what to do when we get offended, but it is also important for us to know how to avoid getting offended. So, number one is, love the law of God. So, let's just run down here. Love the law of God. In Psalm 119 verse 165, Psalm 119 165, it says that, great peace have those who love your law, and nothing causes them to get offended or stumble. Alright? So, when you love God's law, it will prevent you. Because when you love God's law, it says here that you will have peace. And when you have this kind of peace, it is difficult for you to get angry, to get offended, because you love the law of God. Number two, let go of the source of offense. Matthew 5:30. Matthew 5:30 says, let me read in KJV. If thy right hand offend you, cut it off and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and that thy whole body should be cast into hell. So this principle tells us that you need to identify the source or the cause of your offense. Examine yourself. Could it be that pride? Your pride is causing the sin because you are getting offended? Could it be you're insecure? With your life, you're insecure because and that kind of make you get offended easily. Maybe the cause of offenses could be other people. So you need to identify those source of offense. And if you cannot really solve the problem, cut it off. It is better to remove those people, those things that cause you to offend, to get offended, rather than sabi ito, one of thy members should perish, and not thy whole body should be cast into hell. So, that's number two. Number three, don't rely on yourself. Matthew 26:33, Peter answered and said unto him, Matthew 26:33 says, though, ito yung sabi ko kanina, though all men shall be offended because of you, yet I will never be offended. So, the mistake of Peter here is actually that he relied on himself instead of relying on the power of God. Because if you are going to, let me tell you honestly, brethren, you cannot overcome the problem of offense by yourself. If you feel like, this is so difficult, you get stressed, why is it that I'm easily why is it that I get offended easily? Bakit ganito lagi akong galit? You know why? Because you are trying to do it by yourself. Why not go to God, brethren? Bring that offense to God. Bring it to His feet and ask for His help. I can tell you, brethren, you would have a better way of overcoming that offense when you bring it to God. Number 4, prepare for offenses. John 16 verse 1 to 2. John 16, 1 to 2 says, these things I have spoken to you, that you should not be made to stumble. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers God services. So, Yeshua said, I'm telling you this so you will not get offended, that there will come a time that persecution will come. So, we need to prepare that it will actually come, offenses. And when we prepare and we accept that fact that it would really happen, then we would have a better way of preparing for offenses. And finally, brethren, 1 John 2 to 10. 1 John 2 to 10 says, choose to love one another. That is how you overcome offenses. He who loves his brother abides in the light, and there is no cause for stumbling in him. So when you are filled with love, with God's love for your brothers and sisters, you will tend to overlook their offenses. Kasi mahal mo sila eh. You would see the better part, the better side of them, because you love them. Ganun talaga. If you are overcome by offenses, it could be that you don't love that person more. You don't love that person enough. Okay? So when you love, you're actually using the antidote to offenses. We're less likely to be offended when we choose love over bitterness. We choose patience over anger, and forgiveness over resentment. Now, those things, brethren, those things are some of the things that I would like to share with you about offenses. So, as we have learned today, brethren, in this sermon, you could see that offenses are actually a dangerous trap that could ensnare us. And when we are trapped, it could actually lead to our spiritual demise. And if we are not careful, brethren, we would stay at the trap and we get offended easily. And we would end up leaving our faith. So, brethren, let me ask you this question. Are you offended? Are you trapped in the clutches of offenses? How long will you stay trapped? Will you take the necessary steps to overcome offenses and avoid getting offended, brethren? It's time for us to take the path of righteousness. Because, in the end, it will be your choice. Will you choose to live trapped in offenses or live free in the hands of God? The choice is yours to make. Hello, friends. I need your help. If it is not too much to ask, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This should only take 5 seconds of your time. But this simple gesture would help me reach more people and share the Word of God with the rest of the world. You have the power to make a difference in people's lives.